Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's Jerry Miller. It's great to be with you on a Wednesday. Thank you kindly for joining us on the program. It's great to connect with you on this platform. We have the superstars from In My Humble Opinion on the program today. These guys, absolute rock stars. Charles Lewis in the house. Max is in the house. Troy Razor Robinson in the house. We're going to have a hell of a good time talking about Charlottesville, having a good time. And we hope entertaining you for the next 60 minutes on the I Love CVille Show. Let's thank some of the people that make the program possible. We'll give some props and some love to Interstate Pest and Service Companies, one of our favorite clients. Give you a little snapshot on this business. This company started in 1969 with the first generation. His name, Mr. Robert Wells. In 1969, he used his personal truck, his sweat equity, and some vision. And he said, I'm going to start a company. He would go to his first customer, he would service them successfully, and then he'd find the closest payphone in 1969 and say, may I come to your home now? Today, Interstate Pest and Service Companies is 4 family generations strong, almost 100 employees in a Commonwealth-wide footprint with the headquarters on Harris, right around the corner from Bodo's Bagels, an office in Richmond, and an office in the Shenandoah Valley. It's entrepreneurial journeys like this that I love to celebrate, because they're not only creating jobs and making our community better, they're doing it the right way. Dr. Wagner is also doing it the right way. Scott Wagner, Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. It's physical therapy, it's chiropractic care, and sports medicine. Dr. Wagner and his team are improving the quality of life for so many patients across the Commonwealth. We at I Love CVille and VMV Brands just absolutely adore working with Dr. Wagner and Interstate Pest and Service Companies. I could not do this show without our team. Whether it's Judah Wickower, whether it's Lauren Linsky, a producer on this program, they keep me on track, and that is no easy task. All I have to do is be myself here on this program, and they have the hard job of making the show run smoothly, and I'm grateful for you guys. Why don't we go to the studio cam, please, and let's welcome Max Robinson to the show.
Thank you.
Let's welcome Charles Lewis to the show, and let's welcome Razor to the show.
Thank you.
Ladies first.
All right.
Max, what makes you tick? To steal a phrase from Razor.
Yeah, absolutely.
What makes me tick?
The passions, the
I like
hobbies,
this guy, y'all. I like this guy.
What makes you tick?
Right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having us on the show, Jerry, and I love your energy. So we're going to have a good time here today.
We are.
What makes me tick is the million-dollar question. All right. So I'm a mother. We have a blended family, so I'm a mother of, hold your breath, 8 children.
Wow.
8 kids. So the job doesn't stop,
I was
right?
gonna say.
It doesn't stop. I'm super busy with that, and it has its rewarding moments and its challenging moments, but I'm blessed and happy to have every last one of them. So yeah, mother of 8, work locally. I am, of course, obviously one of the hosts of In My Humble Opinion, an entrepreneur, have a few businesses as well, and that's pretty much me. Now, what makes me tick? What brings me pleasure? I would have to say doing the best and the most that I can to kind of make this world a better place. That sound cliche?
No, I feel the same.
Yeah, that's what makes me tick. So that's part of the reason why In My Humble Opinion was started, and I think that we've served that sentiment well over the past few years of trying to make the world a better place for everyone else. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Freddie Jackson, welcome to the show. Ray Cadell, thank you for sharing the show. Rachel Burns, Richard Allen Fox, Roger Voinze, Kevin Higgins. The list goes on. Freddie Jackson, I see you, baby. Charles Lewis, jump in here. What makes Charles Lewis tick, baby?
What makes me tick is my people. You know, my people, and that includes my family. I consider myself a family man. And you know, and I'm all about the arts, and I'm all about you know, incorporating that into society to bring out the best in our people.
Sheldon Smalls, I see you, baby. Thank you for watching the program. Razor, show is yours, baby.
Let me see. What makes me
You're
tick?
not used to asking Razor questions.
I like starting stuff, Jerry. I like
That's
starting
right. He's
trouble.
not lying.
Yeah. What makes me tick is I like taking on stuff that most people don't want to. You know, when people see trouble, I see opportunity. Max happens to be my lovely wife. So that combined family that she's talking about, I'm very much a part of that as well. Since meeting Charles, my visions of life have changed. Charles has opened me up to a whole new way of thinking. And when for a lot of people it would have been like controversy, it gave me the opportunity to find out who I am. Max did the same thing with me because both of them will tell me when I'm wrong. Because I have no shortage of telling people what I think is on my mind. That's probably my problem.
Very true.
So, I mean, what makes me tick is just taking on what most people don't want to.
Kevin Higgins, you're going to love this.
Yes.
Kevin Higgins says, Max, you're a mother of 8. You've already made the world a better place.
Oh, yeah.
That is amazing.
I appreciate that, Kevin.
I mean,
Thank
my
you.
wife-
Hey, Kevin, I got some help up in there, too.
Listen,
Right.
Listen, I make lots of mistakes. I'll take a kid to a doctor's appointment the day before, the day after, you know, those type of things. It can be a hard job, but it's my job. So I do it as best as I can.
You know, we're 16 months in. I call it the best, hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's our first one.
Yeah.
Moms are the superheroes and the rock
We
stars
are.
of the world.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And I took it for granted. I'm going to throw this back to you. I took it for granted with Ma Dukes, with my mom. And then I saw what Lauren, my wife, who's watching now, is going through. She's got a laptop on one knee, doing work for this business, and our kid on the other.
Yeah. Gives you a different perspective.
Hey, Jerry, when I first met Max, I'm going to tell, like, she had a stick shift. Max can really drive, right? Max was putting on makeup, driving a stick shift, texting me. She had this little flip phone from Radio Shack and feeding the kids nuggets at the exact same time. I said, I'm marrying her.
Well, why don't we start right there? Did you charm her? Tell us the love story. How did you guys...
Don't you tell it live.
Please tell me the love story.
Okay, so
Here we go,
Razor owns a barbershop out in Greene County. And so I have 2 older boys who needed haircuts, right? And when I first heard about this shop in Greene County, and I'll have to say a black barbershop out in Greene County, I was like, I don't know. You know, I don't know if that's where I want to take my kids.
Too honest, we chose.
But I tried them and didn't give him the time of day, didn't look his way, wasn't interested, wasn't not just get my kid's haircut, right? And it went that way for a few years. And then after a while, he cut their hair. And after he cut the second one's hair, he came and sat down beside me. I was so nervous, I got up and left. Like, thank you, I'll see you next time. Like, I didn't know what to do. And so I talked to one of my friends about it, and she said, the next time he sits down, do not get up. and he sat down, and I didn't get up, and here we are married.
Yeah. We from the first time that we went on a date, we've never been separated from that point. Awesome. We got married 3 months and 21 days after going out.
That's awesome.
Yep.
You knew right away?
Yeah. Like, as a man, you know. I mean, you know. You know what I'm saying? So you've been through enough bad situations to know a good one when you see one.
Amen.
I appreciate
Amen.
that. Thank
Let's throw this to Charles. In my humble opinion,
Yes, sir.
You guys have got popularity, you got listenership, you got traction, you touch on topics that are authentic, genuine, and real. You don't beat around the bush. Talk to us about the show.
Yeah, so the origins, the show came to be because Max and I actually grew up together, and after school
In Charlottesville?
No, we were from the surrounding area. So she's originally from Greene County. I'm originally from Madison County.
Okay, but Proud Green Dragons.
Yep.
Green Dragons?
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Madison Mountaineers?
Yeah.
Okay.
But so after school, so life took us different places all around, including Charlottesville. So we were actually at a community meeting, an NACP meeting, and first time we saw each other in years. And she told me how she was studying, I think it was mass communications and things like that. She wanted to start her own show, and she had done it on a smaller level. And so same time, friends of mine were, I was a part of starting 101 Jamz, WVAI 101.3. So we have a mutual cousin, by the way, DJ Flatline, who's well known in the area. So she had already reached out to him about 101 Jamz. I was a part of it. So the universe just kind of brought us back. Shortly after, I set up a meeting with her and Razor. We talked and talked about our ideas that we both had. It gelled, and then we presented it to the board at 101 Jamz, and we've been on since 2016.
I love it.
Yeah,
January 1st, 2016.
I love it. Max, talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, it's been a ride. The show was created, it was a school project, the result of a school project, and the whole purpose of the show was just to help people, honestly. When I told you that at the beginning of your show, I really meant that. I just wanted to be able to talk about issues that affected everyone and be able to have a solution at the end of the day, right? But it's been a wonderful time. We've had all sorts of guests, good ones, bad ones, lots of different conversations.
Name drop.
And I think,
Please.
yeah. Oh, well, let's see. So Nikki Giovanni has been a guest. Ibram X. Kendi has been a guest. Dr. Umar Johnson has been a guest. The descendants of
Kunta Kinte.
Rosa Parks, Nat Turner, Sally Hemings.
Big time.
Who am I missing?
There's so many.
Controversial ones.
So Richard Spencer did
Yeah.
a fun interview with us.
Get out.
We
Dr.
got some
Umar
flack
Johnson.
about that one.
Yeah? And what was the thought with the Richard Spencer interview?
Yeah, so with the Richard Spencer one, and it's funny you asked that because, of course, everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
And we actually caught a lot of flack after that interview.
NBC 29 did an interview with Spencer, and they caught a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
A lot of advertisers were like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the question because, a lot of thought went into that. And from our perspective is it's not enough just to be angry, right? It's not enough just to be mad at someone. It kind of goes back to Sun Tzu's Art of War, which is one of my favorite books.
I love the Art of War.
It's like you have to be able to be sort of civilized enough and keep your composure enough to sit at a table with your worst enemy and be able to figure out how they're thinking and to be able to have a conversation. Not agree with them. You don't have to agree, but to at least be able to figure out their game plan. You know what I mean? So having him on the show was really just about that because we felt like we were going to be the only ones brave enough to be able to have someone like Richard Spencer on air and be able to let the black community actually ask questions and hear what he's thinking. And we saw nothing wrong with that.
I love that answer.
And the crazy thing about that interview, like Charles said, we caught flack. No, we got boycotted.
Yeah.
Like it went to that level. Like they were trying to boycott against the station. You know who you are. So the craziest thing about the interview, and anybody who wants to listen to it can go to our YouTube page and draw it up, in my humble opinion, with Richard Spencer, was that honestly, and I'm being 100% honest, his views weren't that much different from mine or most people that I know until it got to the point of the hierarchy. Everything else he wanted this for his kids, he wanted this for his family, he wanted, there were so many things that were similar, but the things that made us different, that one thing, that hierarchy, where, okay, black people have to be here, white people have to be here, was the whole catastrophic thing about the interview and his whole viewpoint. I listened to that interview probably 36 times straight. And I was just listening to it, and I was honest with myself. And I said, you know what? I agree with this. I agree with this. I disagree with this. I went through and channel checked because, like Charles said, that's the only way we can have actual dialogue to be able to coexist without having people getting run over down the street, where we can sit down with somebody that looks totally different from you and have a good conversation and our kids play together. You can't do that without communication.
That's legit.
Yeah, the one thing I would add is that the main point of understanding that I feel that was received from it was the comment he made about nobody wants to be the minority.
That's right. That's stuck.
So his whole drive and his whole movement, the alt-right, unite the right, all that to him was about, he felt like that him and his people were becoming a minority. And he sees how minorities get treated, so he was fearful of that.
He said they're the scapegoat, they're blamed for everything. And like he literally listed out everything that African Americans complain about that's going on in society. He literally said it. But go to the YouTube page, listen to it for yourself.
And I think that one of my hopes for that dialogue is that when we sit down with him and we ask him these questions, maybe he's able to understand the other side.
Do you think he
maybe he's able? It's questionable. I don't know, and maybe I never will, but I'd like to hope so. But maybe he's able to understand our perspective. Maybe he's able to understand where his viewpoints may be a little bit off, right? And if we can have a hand in that, if we can help facilitate that, then that's what we do it for.
Richard Spencer, for those that are living under the rock, was the Nimrod, along with Jason Kessler, that pretty much were the motivation behind 812 here in Charlottesville. Go to their YouTube channel and listen to this interview. I'm thoroughly intrigued by that because I think journalism and broadcasting and interviews like that take courage.
Yeah.
And you were taking a risk. Because I knew you probably knew when you were booking this that you were going to catch a shitload of shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you still said, we need to do this because of what you said. Having the dialogue is, in a lot of ways, the true power. right? Jump in here.
Yeah, we were first. When you look at the date from which we did that interview, we were before Charles Barkley and them had their interview. We were before 29 News. We were before anybody. So it was, I mean, when they look at it, they're getting his honest feelings, not what he's saying because something happened. Because a lot of times people's responses change because something has taken place. So I know I said this, but now I'm going to say this. When we talked to him, it was fresh. It was new. So
how close to 8/12 was that?
It was before. When was it?
I'm not certain.
It was before. Yeah, it was before.
Before 8/12.
Yeah, like it was when their movement was like starting from when he came over from Texas or wherever he came from. But Max and they reached out to him early. Like I forget what the date is, but they'll be able to look on YouTube and tell. But yeah, we were the first.
Neil Williamson, welcome to the program. Raheem Shiflett, thank you for watching. Devon Anderson, Mitchell Pitts, thank you for watching the show. Give it a like, give it a share on any of the channels you're watching now, like Tony Settle, like Monique Banks, like Cam Williams, like Richard Johnson, like L.J. Ward, like Bridget Johnson, like Deepa Fry. The list goes on. Neil Williamson, thank you for doing that right there. Tammy Jo Pugh, we got a lot of freaking people watching right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me throw this to you, Max. I love, and I've caught you guys, I love that you guys keep it real. Like, Spencer's a perfect example. You're not afraid to talk the topics that a lot of people don't want to talk because of vulnerability, because of it takes courage, it takes guts. When
you're never scared.
Yeah, you're not scared.
Yeah,
when you're building the program, was that the MO from the beginning?
Yeah, I wanted to have candid conversations. I don't know if you can necessarily help someone or a situation without having those. Yeah, so that was certainly the intention. Now, I will say that the vision, once we connected with Charles, the vision changed some, right? So when I originally well, it was less about social issues, less about race. But being on a R&B and hip hop station, and considering the fact that the black community here doesn't have that outlet, it had to be, you know, and with the issues that we were all dealing with, it had to be. So yeah, that was implemented there. So
what do you think?
Yeah, she's definitely spot on. One of the first conversations that we had was about how we needed sort of an urban
epicenter,
or like an urban NPR.
Yeah,
I think that was how we phrased it. You know, by having that, because it wasn't just enough, again, like just to be angry about issues or just to throw random things out on social media, but to actually be able to have like an organized and a structured way, a conversation, a dialogue that then not only can you save and share, but then you are actually calling people to task. And I think that's one thing that I really appreciate that we do, because we all are three individual personalities, very individual. And then we also have different color commentators that may come on and join us, and we always have people that are different, because the whole point of our show is sometimes we have fun, you know, we laugh, sometimes we cry. This is CVille's Oprah Winfrey right now. I'm telling you, you know?
She has a man, like, it's so many people that she didn't name that she's interviewed, her and Charles, that like it's unreal. And then if you listen to her interviews, like it choked. Charles and I sit on the other side, and when she gets in her mode, we don't even get on air. Like it's nothing to do. But to add on, I'm sorry, Max. To add on what Charles said, we cover every spectrum. We cover from education, going off to college, all the way down in the black community, all the way down to what would be considered ratchet talking or whatever. Just because we believe everybody has a voice, and just because your economic situation might not look like the next person doesn't mean that you should be shut down. And that's what, in my humble opinion, gives the city.
I love it. I love it.
And I would say through doing that, we've had pretty much every reputable person that surrounds Charlottesville on, as far as that, whether it's a nonprofit organization, whether it's a for-profit. We have a business segment. We have an Ask Max segment where listeners can send in questions or comments about, you know, like very touchy subjects they want our opinions on. So I mean, it's like there's an array. But yeah, like we want this to be a platform to where for Charlottesville knows, if you ever want to pick someone's brain locally, you may not know them personally. Like that's what our show is for. If you have a business and you want to learn more about it, that's what our show is for.
Especially politics.
And if I may add to some of what Charles was saying, like there's a lot of things being said about what's happening here in Charlottesville, publicly and privately, that get buried under the tact in which they're being said, or the presentation. You know, when it's covered up with a bunch of curse words or this, that, and the other. Sometimes the message gets lost, or the essence of what's being said is getting lost. But it doesn't mean that what's being said isn't true, right?
Give me a good example.
Husband and wife. This is what husband and wife. The wife might have done something that the man doesn't like, but as soon as the man says something, the wife might focus on what he said or what he did, and then it's not about the argument anymore. It's very much.
I think that happened to me this morning.
And Max is dead on spot. It's very much like that. Like, let's say, for instance, I'll say, because this is what I do on the show. Let's take the city council meetings. A person might be talking about a viable issue, but because they say something that they said this, and then it becomes about what they've said and not about what the issue is. And that's a good way for people not to have to deal with what they're really trying to fix. So it happens all the time. Our show, we look at those things, we come back, we say, look, this is what we're going to talk about, and then we dig straight in. Okay,
well, then there's a good topic. This is a springboard into city council meeting. I think it was the last one. There was a somewhat of a blowout. Tanesha Hudson was in front of council, and she was requesting, I think it was an additional $30,000 to add a headliner to her show, okay? And then it turned into a pretty explosive situation in city council. I think that's fair to say, right? Why don't we start with that topic right there? A lot of topics I want to cover. This is for a show that is going to feature a lot of local artists, and we're trying to attract a DC rapper that was going to come in for a couple hours for $30K. I thought, personally myself, I thought it would have been great. It would have drawn a lot more people potentially to the show. I thought there was money in the budget. New Hill Development Corporation got $500K. She was asking for an additional 30 on top of the 15 that she got already. That made front page newspaper. That made NBC 29. And that was for 3 days, the rage on social. Is that safe? That's all safe, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts on that topic? What happened? How it transpired?
So the way I look at it is from two different phases. One, which may be the more popular phase in the local urban community, of that if Charlottesville is serious about uplifting black business and to make this area more comfortable and more sociable for people of color to want to be here and for them to feel part of the community, then I feel like that, yes, the powers that be need to step up and actually put their money where their mouth is. That's one side of it, right? Now, on the other side, where if I was a naysayer, then I would say accountability always falls on us, on you. It's always whoever you're looking at in the mirror. Is who accountability falls that on. And what I mean by that is that so many times we as a people, we need to support each other, meaning that we need to put our money where our mouth is as well.
100%.
Meaning that when other cultures, if they have a show or things like that like that's doing something, bringing someone to town or whatnot, that's an attraction for their culture and something they want to do, they'll spend the money necessary to do it.
You're saying passing the hat around the community to raise the money to cover.
I'm just saying,
if council's not going to allocate the funds, let's do it within the communities. Is that what you're saying?
Somewhat, but not to get it that way. The way I would receive it is that, like you can take a black business, for instance. It's a conversation that we have a lot. Like we need to stop looking for the hookup. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The hookup meaning, like me going into Razor's business and being like, oh man, I know you from back when, give me a discount, or just hook me up with a haircut for free, whatever the case is. Instead of us doing that, same way that we can spend money on all of our other luxuries, Tanesha should be able to put on an event, charge what she needs to charge for it, and we should be able to, to cover that. And honestly, then some black businesses and nonprofits, if there's people in the community that say I can't afford it or whatnot, then I think that we should also band together and take care of that as well.
What do you think, Max?
Well, I understand the idea behind Tanesha's request. She wants to be able to provide the black community with an entertainment event, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But I believe the thrust for it is that those type of spaces that welcome the black community are kind of null and void here in Charlottesville, right? And so she was just trying to.
Well, they don't exist downtown for sure.
Well, certainly, but I don't.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah.
Okay. So
which?
Yeah, there's an art museum that I just learned of that's actually ran by a black female, and I just learned about this probably just a few weeks ago. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to go check that out. But Razor and Max, they actually have a food truck during with spring and summer on the downtown mall, things like that. So, but like I said, very minimal. But,
yeah. So I think that not many of those spaces exist for us, and so I completely understand her request of wanting to be able to give the black community something a place where they felt like they belonged, a place that they felt like was theirs. Not to get into any of the logistics of the perform or anything like that, but I definitely understand the request. With council having turned it down, I'm sure that they have their own what they feel are, responses to why they feel like they should have turned it down. But it's kind of a tough question for me to answer. Yeah. It's kind of a tough question for me to answer.
If I may piggyback off of what you're saying, I'm going to take it a little step further than those two. Charlottesville, I'm not from here, I'm from Orange County Hornet, proud.
John Kajanian in the house.
Yeah, that was my man.
Right?
That was my man. Yes,
Football,
Lord.
physical education.
Wrestling.
Good dude, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I try to teach my children, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. Charlottesville tolerates African Americans. They don't celebrate them, except for when it comes to entertainment, which is almost like, and this is Razor's, in my humble opinion, it's almost like you can be a sideshow. You can be set for just entertaining me. That's what you are. You're my entertainment. If I don't want to be entertained with what you want to do, then I'm going to say no. It has nothing to do. It's not even playing ground here. That's the way Charlottesville is set. And that's part of the reason why so many people from the white community and the black community stopped speaking after August 12th, is because a lot of African Americans, and I know I'm gonna catch some flack behind this, a lot of African Americans have to play the game. So that, you got kids in school, you got mortgages, you do certain things that don't ruffle feathers. So then the Caucasian community feels that everything is okay. So then after August 12th happened and people started speaking and said, no, this is wrong, it was kind of, if you look at it, it was kind of unfair to the Caucasian side, because it's almost like your wife not wanting to get divorced and never telling you that she had a problem. So then they looked at the African American side, and I had friends that did this to me that were like, man, I can't believe that you think like this. And I'm like, well, just because I'm your friend doesn't mean that your brother doesn't like me. So then we still have to go through certain things that happened back in the 60s. You can write down certain things, and it's still the same today. Even though we may not say certain things, we're not marching across Selma. We're not doing, those type of things. We get on social media, say a post, it goes out in 5 minutes. Everybody like, and then it's nothing to it. So when August 12th came, it actually gave us the chance to have open dialogue about how people really felt. Everybody says that the people weren't from here. Not everybody wasn't from here. True. Let's just be honest. And they came here because they had people here that they could say, okay, I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to be protected. I'm going to be fed from you. Nobody's going to go into something blind. That was strategic. Okay, so when that happened, African Americans said, look, this is how it's been, and it threw people to the side. And now we're at a point where I wonder if we're really trying to heal, or we're really trying to just get past it. Because Charlottesville had to understand that the world was looking at them like, oh my God, y'all just like the South. Y'all like the old 60s South. No, we're not. No, we're not. So getting to what I'm really trying to say is, in my humble opinion, is trying to take both sides and collectively bring together this conversation and say, okay, now what? You got a problem here, you got a problem here. Now what? How do we solve it? Who do we bring in? Who do we talk to? What's the next steps? That's what we're trying to do.
Respect.
And if I may add on
Please.
to that too, Harriet Tubman is credited with saying that she could have freed more if they knew that they were slaves.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, the first step is actually the awakening. Right. So that's something that we try to do by opening our mouths behind the microphone. Yep. Right. Because part of what Razor said, like where I would defer a little bit, is that so many people of color are just jaded, like generationally. There's stigmas that's been passed on, like to where they're like, this is just how it is. And then it makes, us even matter when then white people then play naive. Because I think part of the outrage, and you're right, like a lot of it wasn't communicated before, but some folks' anger was coming from, it's like, you knew that this how it was. Like you knew that guy worked at
They call it white
privilege.
They call it white privilege. Yeah. That's the word. Yeah. You know, that's what people say. You have white privilege. And a lot of people, I don't know that I know some people understand that, okay, because of who I am. A lot of times, because of your last name, you'll say, okay, he's a Rockefeller, so he's going to get certain things. But when it comes to ethnicity, it does play a part in society. I mean, if you look at everything from, and this isn't talking about anybody in particular, but you look at how people get pulled over. You look at those rates. You look at how people get prosecuted. You know, people get in trouble at the same rate, but the prosecution rate is totally different. The time frame that people get is totally different. So that comes along with the healing and everything else. It's a snowball effect to me. So if you have to figure out something that you have to fix before you can fix anything. And what we tend to do is we fix a little here, a little there, here, and before you know it, we just went in a circle, and we're right back to where we started at before.
And I think that, you know, one thing we can all agree on is that this city has to do better, right? And it requires us to do better on all fronts, not just to require it out of the black community and not the white, or vice versa, you know. And I think we're capable of doing that. I think that all of the leaders that the city currently has in positions, right? The city manager, the mayor, the vice mayor, and the city chief, all possess what we need in order to move this city forward. Now it comes down to coming to the table and figuring out what exactly that looks like, and then putting, you know, where the rubber meets the road, right? Putting it into effect. But I think that we have leaders in place that can actually move us forward.
We got a lot of commentary coming in from listenership. Margaret Matthews says, this is a phenomenal show, a much needed show. Margaret Matthews says, truth, Troy, truth. Kevin Higgins, this is a good question. Let me throw this to you, Max, here. This is from Neil Williamson from the Free Enterprise Forum. What do the guests think of the current city council chambers environment? Is it conducive for citizen participation? Should it continue? Should it change? Interesting question right there. Max, your thoughts on that topic?
I don't know if you can touch
I think we can do better.
Yeah?
I certainly think that we can do better. I think that we all have to be able to respect one another. And I think that everyone that attends those council meetings needs to come to the council meeting understanding that we're here to accomplish something, whether that's equity or whatever the topic may be, right? We have to understand that we're here because we want better for our lives and we want better for the city, right? And if we can all kind of come under that umbrella, I think then those council meetings will be much more productive than what they are right now.
Yeah, simple word, respect. You know, there are people, you can be sitting across from, like Charles said earlier, your sworn enemy, but you can still have respect for each other.
That's right.
And if you have respect for each other, then you can get to the next platform or wherever you need to go. That's what the city of Charlottesville needs. You know, people get up there, and like I said, I'm not talking about anybody, but people want to be heard. And you can tell when somebody wants to be heard, because as soon as they say what they got to say, they turn their back and they walk away. That means that they don't want any responses to where what they say fits into the equation. They just want, and we need to do a better job of that. You know,
I tell my kids all the time, right? They're school age kids. Like, you can ask your teacher whatever question you want to. It's all in how you say it, and that's the issue that we're running into, right? Is that respect is gone out the window for some people, and we're talking to people in inappropriate ways. So,
what do you think, Charles?
I think brutal honesty is needed, and people have to be receptive to that and be mature enough to not show how offended they even may be, because we're talking about a professional setting. So while that's needed, also the city and the naysayers of how council handles it and how some residents conduct themselves, the naysayers have to remember that this is an effect. Like, the way they're acting is not a cause. The majority is, are people that are speaking out because they have been, reinvigorated. They feel like they finally have a voice and a chance to actually speak. So sometimes it's not going to come out in the most polished way.
Absolutely right. Especially since it's emotionally driven.
Tanya Brock, this is amazing stuff. She's giving us props. Carissa Childress, great show, great job, guys. You're killing it right now. New question just came in. There's a lot of questions coming in right now. Like and share the feed. Like and share the feed on any of the channels you're watching right now. Give it a like, give it a share. Kevin Higgins, I feel like we've become trapped for being against city council or against the city of Charlottesville. How do we get out of this mindset? What's the honest discussion that needs to take place? Razor, you want to start with that one?
Yeah. in order for this to really go anywhere.
3 city councilors watching right now.
3 city councilors. How y'all doing? Don't tell me which ones. That way I don't spend no feelings. This is what needs to happen. Like, I believe people need to figure out, what do you want? Like, if you take and they say, okay, these are the top 10 things I want, and see which one of those things mesh over to each other. There's got to be something that coincides with one another. So out of the 10 things, if you find 2 things that we have in common, work on those 2 things, because then at that point, the people see that you have progress, that you are actually trying to work towards something. Me personally, that's what I think. I think it's that simple. I think we oversimplify everything. We live in a microwave society where as soon as I don't like something, I want to answer to it. Now, realizing there's a protocol to stuff, which is why the meetings are out of order. You know, people don't understand the protocol. And when you put people in positions to speak and they don't understand the protocol, nothing's going to get done.
What was the protocol then? Is it need that the mayor needs to rule more iron-fisted? Or do we encourage the open dialogue? I mean, I feel like there's got to be like a potentially happy medium.
If the mayor rules with an iron fist, she's going to be labeled as an angry black woman. So then it's going to not be about what her trying to create order. It's going to be about how she's viewed. Yeah. Exactly. So that's what's going to happen. And she has every right to tell people, look, this will not happen. But at the same time, she's smart enough to understand that when she does that the newspapers are going to say, oh, the mayor did this and said that, and then the social media says this and that, and then we've bottlenecked all this stuff that does not matter. And we tie their hands as to what they can actually do, in my humble opinion.
Bellamy Brown, welcome to the program. Brian Pinkston, who ran for council, watching right now. Give it a like, give it a share. Max, I'm curious of your thoughts here.
Yeah, well, you know, just thinking about Charles's last comment, while we all have to take into perspective, I think, how counselors and citizens that are attending these meetings speak to and address one another, we have to also make sure that policies, right, are being put in place that aren't detrimental to one, you know, group or another. And I think that's an important part of it, because we get so caught up in how someone is speaking, and you know, if we speak softly and intelligibly, but then we put in these procedures that hurt or harm a certain faction of people, then what are we accomplishing anyway, right? So I think both of those things have to be considered here when we talk about how these council meetings need to be held, how we move the city forward.
Tyler Berry, welcome to the program.
That's my brother.
Catch the chef, right?
That's my brother.
Tyler Berry, love some Tyler Berry on this program. Amy Wicks-Horn, Amy Carter, Catherine Lochner. Give it a like, give it a share. A lot of questions coming in about the statues. A lot of people saying we love this show, what's going on in the dialogue. Let me start with you here. I had this conversation. We ask this conversation pretty much every show. Mm-hmm. I think anyone that is in Charlottesville is touched by this topic. Mm-hmm. Some touch in a much more, you know, much greater impact than others, undoubtedly. Mm-hmm. My mindset has changed so much about this. Mm-hmm. Initially, my mindset, and I'm going to throw this to you, initially my mindset was removing the statues does not change our awful history. Mm-hmm. And then I was there firsthand at 8/12 because I wanted to relay to my son when he got to history class, Dad was there, this is what Dad saw. And I saw some of the nastiest stuff I ever seen in my entire life. Had 60, 70 days of PTSD, seeing folks getting their face kicked in, couldn't shake it. My wife finally said, let's figure this out. Let's shake this, whether it's therapy, whatever it may be, and this show was birthed because of it. My mindset changed. And my mindset said, let's move the statues, or let's put a statue next to the current statue that champions and spotlights someone from the African American community that's done amazing things in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Topic out in the open. Charles, if you want to start, anywhere you want to go.
Okay, yeah, well, as far as that topic, like my answer is pretty straightforward, which is if we look at who Robert E. Lee is or was, right, like in his totality, he himself wrote a letter before he died saying that the Confederacy conceded that flags should be folded and put away and never raised again. That's what he wrote. So like that should cut off like any logical thinker that is a supporter of the Confederacy and of that still being a symbol of this country, and somehow they should be able to understand that. Now, with the statue itself, and in saying that, and in knowing that about Robert E. Lee and knowing the history of Charlottesville, he had nothing to do with Charlottesville. So that would mean that that statue is nothing more than a symbol of white supremacy. Like, there's no other way, if you look at the facts, there's no other way that you can look at it, right?
Paul McIntyre put it in there.
Right,
he
exactly.
requested it be put in as I'm going to donate this land to the city on a couple conditions. This statue has to go there, and it has to be a public park were two of the conditions. And he undoubtedly was a white supremacist.
Absolutely.
It's documented.
Absolutely. So yeah, so when we look at the statue and when we look at street names, since that also includes McIntyre and things like that. Yeah, that all comes back to the same idea of if it should be removed, which I think the Blue Ribbon Commission did a great job, honestly, in the research things that they did regarding that. So really, at the end of the day, I leave it up to them on what's more viable when it comes to building around it, to repaint the park and to show a deeper and a better history, or to show the fullness of history. If that's what they would have decided, I would have been fine with that as well.
What do you think, Max?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Let's say we have a known racist sitting at this table, right? And let's move the statue. What has moving that statue done for the racism that exists in their heart?
Probably nothing.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's my perspective, is that if we move this statue, what does that do about the racism that still exists within people, right?
So what do you do if you had the call to make?
Yeah.
Charlottesville's Oprah Winfrey.
Yes, I like that.
You know, I don't necessarily know what the cure is to hate and racism, right? But I believe that's the answer. Right? And that's why I try to chip away at this day by day or Sunday by Sunday on our radio station to do what I can to help people to be able to celebrate and embrace people that don't look like them, act like them, talk like them. But for me, that's the root of the problem. You move that statue, and that's not taken like a passive, response to moving the statue, right? Some people feel like, if you're black, then you ought to feel like, yes, move the statue. And that's not my perspective at all. It's just that if we move it, then what does it do for the racist, right? Because that's what's at the heart of the problem, right? Isn't that what's at the heart of it? It's racism.
In some ways, if it is moved, one of my concerns is, does it galvanize the racists even more?
Yes.
To give them like some kind of like motivation. It's like, say like, and this is a terrible analogy, but like, say like with the sports team, if like their superstar goes down with an injury, the rest of the team is like galvanized and pulled together to try to like go to bat for the superstar that went down for an injury.
But Jerry, you don't even have to look at it like that. Do you remember like before August 12th happened when they were marching and they said, "You will not replace us"? That's exactly what's going to happen. Any white supremacy will do to somebody what they don't want done to them in a heartbeat. Now, on my part, when it comes to putting up a statue, let's say, for instance, everybody knows Martin Luther King. So we take a statue of Martin Luther King and stick it next to the statue. I think that's insane, because that's like telling a woman who's been abused or her husband hits her with a belt and hangs it up here. He brings her a cake. Aren't I doing something nice for you here? But she's sitting there looking at the belt every day that she gets beat with at nighttime. That's what putting quote unquote black statue that highlights the best of us next to something that suppressed us.
So you're saying that's a terrible idea?
That is a horrible idea.
Terrible idea.
Yes, that's a horrible idea. Now, when it comes to taking down the statue, my question I always ask people is it okay for me to say what I don't like? And for African Americans, a lot of times that's not the case. When we say what we don't want to have done to us, that's when everything goes awry. On our jobs, our children at schools. I mean, these are real conversations that African Americans have amongst themselves. And getting back to the statue, taking it down, putting up another one, I'm not sure. I'm with Max. That does nothing for the person.
So then you say leave it?
I'm not saying leave it. I'm saying if you take it down, you have to be prepared for the uprising of the white supremacists trying to show that you know, we still have power. They're trying to put us, the minority, as Richard Spencer said. If we take it down and then put up something of unity, then is it bringing everybody together? Hopefully so, you know. But then they'll make it about something else. Okay, you're bringing in unity. Okay, well, then you'll try to mesh in everything together. A perfect example. I hate when people say now people of color, because what that's doing is erasing African Americans, causing issues. So, because anybody that's not white is a person of color, so to speak, the way it's viewed upon. So we need to stop saying that altogether.
What do you prefer?
So you're a black person. You're African American, and you have African Americans say, I'm not from Africa, I was raised here, I was a Moor. You know, it goes on for days and days. But if a black person is a black person. That's the color that you are. You know, white person's a white person, but then you get into, you know, Chinese and all those type things that really isn't the problem. It's more African Americans, blacks, Caucasian people, white people. So there's nothing wrong with saying that this is who you are. This is what you identify with. Now, if this is what you identify with and you want, let's say, for instance, if the city was to donate another park for straight African American symbols, then people are going to complain that you're trying to divide yourself. So I don't know what the answer is, because there's always going to be somebody that can give a different angle to keep the spin going so that nothing ever gets done.
And can I touch on that
Sure.
as well? Yeah, because that, to me, that loops back into the question that you last gave about city council, about what's the fix, is that when we talk about that supremacy, we're talking about systematic issues. And that's what Razor was alluding to as well when he was talking about the conversation that we may have amongst each other as black people because of the powers that be. You follow what I'm saying?
Safety.
So, yeah, you know, so like really that's one thing that I feel like that the current council, current city leaders are doing a great job of. Not only, you know, are the symbolic things being dealt with, because that places like a mental stigma on you, whether people want to admit that or not. If generationally you're seeing things and you're seeing, you know, you're seeing negative things or things that make you less of a person, that diminishes your culture, that's going to play a part in your psyche, right? So while we're doing those symbolic things, the systematic things to me are even more important. And I feel like that we're trying to do those as well, whether it being, you know, doing what we can to help support small minority-owned businesses, whether we're making sure that there's living wages, you know what I mean? Like
Affordable housing.
Yeah, you know, like all those things. And the systematic piece is that, like, we can dress it up all day, you know. I'm like, we can put lipstick on the pig, but if there's still people in power that are still going to discriminate, like for instance, Jerry, if you and I go in for the same job, right, and let's say that we have, you know, similar experiences, education, by default, you're going to get a higher offer, guarantee it.
That's even if you get hired.
Guarantee it. Like, and I know this because I've been on both sides of the table. I've been on both sides of the gun, you know, thankfully, to where now, like, I see how interview processes work and things like that. So knowing that, me as a black man, a lot of times I'm going to be just happy just to get an opportunity, just a chance. And if I fight for that, for more money that I deserve, like, they may drop me. Like, I may lose my job.
My position is no longer needed.
You know what I'm saying? So systematic things like that. And I was actually at the United Way dinner this past week, and they were talking about the different levels of discrimination, on how if you take someone that may like kill a black person, right? Then that's looked at as the worst, right? But if you take someone who may share racist views, that may be looked at as second. But then the third one was the systematic piece. And most of us agree that was the worst, because you can hide behind that, but you really can do a lot of damage when people don't even know that you're trying to hurt them.
Can I ask you a question, Jerry?
Sure.
You said affordable housing.
Yes.
A lot of times, why do we look at affordable housing being, I know a lot of times we say, okay, when it comes to the ghettos and the hoods and that, African Americans or people of color are going to be there. Why can't we look at getting loans for land? You know, like, I mean, because there was a point where every African-American family had a home place, which meant they had land. Over the course of time, we've lost those things. But when we go in for loans and stuff, a lot of times we're denied. Why is that? When me and my counterpart might work the same exact job, how is his car better than mine? How does he have property and I have to go rent from somebody else? It makes no sense. It's like, why is my credit score by default lower from day one? It just makes no sense. So when Charles talks about these things, there's a lot of things that we can fix that are bigger than the statue, because it improves your quality of life. So those are the things that I'm more focused on through the show and the things that we talk about, whether it's
And
talking
it's
about,
also because you're an entrepreneur in a lot of ways. And,
well,
you
I
know,
became an entrepreneur because of the situations Charles talked about. I'm a union electrician at Local 26, and the wages are I went to the union because the wages were the same. Now, the type of job, I may have to go out there and dig the ditch while the other guy was standing over top of me, even though I was told to train him after he started 2 years after me. So I became an entrepreneur because nobody can control how much wire I pull, how many cars I wash, how many, you know. Then now I can bring up my situation so my family can live better. That's why I became an entrepreneur.
I became an entrepreneur because I realized, well, first off, I'm going to straight up say this. The bosses that I had before I started my business, I realized that I was smarter than them, and they were making more money than me. Okay. But why I became an entrepreneur is because I understood the value of my hard work. And I knew that if I was going to work harder than everybody else, that I needed to be compensated for that effort. And I got frustrated in that everything I do balls to the wall, 1,000 miles an hour, just go, go, go. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well be doing that for myself and my family. We got a lot of people watching. We got this comment.
A friend of mine, before I can say it, Denver Riggleman, he came to the show, and he made a comment about pulling yourself up. Yes, he made a comment about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, it's different for the African American community when your bootstrap is nailed to the floor. You know, you can't pull yourself up by that bootstrap, or your shoestrings are short. You can't. You got to figure out a way to tie everything. And we've done an excellent job throughout the history of taking worse situations and making them better. You know, you give us chitlins, so we turn that into soul food. You know, you give us hand-me-down shoes. We do tap dancing. We learn how to sing. We play spoons. So we're masters of taking little and making it into more. But then the problem is the powers that be come back and take that from you and then sell it back to you. I'm gonna pay you less. I'm gonna take what you have. So there's so many systematic things that we can work on, and it's oh God, they're talking about race again. No, race is very much a part of it, because if you can't see what I look like and you put everything on paper, then job applications wouldn't ask you what color are you.
Yeah, and he mentioned Denver Riggleman as well. That was another one that we got quite a bit of backlash about as well. Like, why would you have him on?
Because you're saying his ties to Trump because of that?
That was some people's reasons, or like some people even mentioned to me his voting record on certain issues. But again, the main thing with that, and the reason, like, where we've had him on not once but twice, is what I personally appreciate about Denver Riggleman is his honesty.
His honesty.
It's like he'll sit there and be like,
well, we saw that when he was the officiant of the gay wedding. A gay wedding. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And did you see how much crap he caught from the Republican Party for that?
I can tell you firsthand, he does not care.
Either side thinks.
He does not care. That's why me personally, I can listen to him in a conversation. I can sit down at a table with him and talk, because Denver's going to be Denver. Come hell or high water, like me, hate me. First thing he said, I never heard another politician say was, if you don't like me, don't vote for me. You never hear that. At that point, I said, you know what? This is somebody I can actually look in the eyes and ask any question I want to, and I've done it several times.
I like that. Let's share some of the props and some of the comments that are coming in here. Kevin Higgins says, Max, if I owned a Fortune 500 company, I'd hire you before you got to your car.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that, Kevin.
Jay White, Justin Ross.
Hit me up if you ever own that.
The good answer.
Yes, indeed.
This is Freddie Jackson. Razor, Charles, and Max, good to see you all here. You're crushing it. Jerry, you're doing a great job. We're getting this all together. This was Troy's idea. Troy's idea for doing this show, Freddie. This is an interesting question, and there's some sadness here. I'm a positive person, but throw this to you guys. The bottom line, this is from Wade Lewis. Okay? Is that kin?
I believe if it's the one I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. The bottom line is things are never going to change. There's nothing that can make the people in the world stop racism. To even begin a change, it has to start in the judicial system. I think there's a lot of truth that it has to start in the judicial system. I think we can change, right? Can't we change? As positive people, can we change?
I've been there before. I've had those exact same thoughts that he has, and thought, like, you know, when Martin Luther King spoke about a dream, then maybe it was sincerely just a dream. Maybe this is not something that we're going to accomplish in reality, right? But you cannot fall into that dismal pool, right? You have to believe in the good in humanity. And quite honestly, I feel like, because we're oftentimes, especially in the black community, searching around for that leader, that person to rally behind, who's going to take us to the promised land.
Who's going to get his head chopped off while he's trying to go to the top, though.
And you can't always do that, right? You have to be the change that you want to see. You have to be the leader in your own right. And so I understand where he's coming from, but don't lose hope, right? You can't lose hope. You have to live in this world. You got to raise kids in this world. So just be the change you want to see.
I don't think, like, because I know me and Charlie, I know him like a book, so I know how he's going to answer. That's why I want to go first. Me personally, as a whole, I don't think it'll ever change, because tall people aren't going to like short people. You know, wolves aren't going to like deer. I mean, it's the way God made
women,
it.
and
You're a different type of guy.
Change is possible. Change is possible.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about as a whole. Now,
one woman. Sorry, sweetheart.
As a whole, I don't think it's going to change. Now, do I think we can get enough people to say, okay, this is what we're going to do? Like it or not like it, this is the route that we're going. Does that mean that the people that don't like it are going to be for it? No, absolutely not. So while I understand this comment, like change is never going to happen, sometimes you have to change your demographic area to get that change that you're looking for. Because wearing dreads here in Charlottesville is different than wearing dreads in New York City or D.C. You know, wearing your hair like you have it, Jerry, is different here
you like the
than it is. It looks good on you. It looks good on you. Than being in like Seattle. So people are always going to look at things the way that they want to look at them. But if we decide as a whole that it's hurting us as a community, like it starts affecting people's pockets, then that's what brings on change. Economic always brings on change.
Casey Pickett said amen to your comment there. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Like John Mayer said, the heart of life is good. You know, and I truly believe that, you know, but at the same time, when, you know, it's hard when you're looking at circumstances, and again, like that generational, you know, what feels like generational curses, you know, when you just look at the way that the world is and just how greedy people are and just how it never seems to stop, I can totally understand being there. But yeah, but at the same time, you have to find something worth fighting for, something worth living for. You know, not to get too religious, but at the same time, you know, there's, like, we are just living in a world, you know, like to where it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know,
certain things have to take place.
Yeah. Certain things are going to have to take place. And honestly, like that's where some of that fear comes in that some even white supremacists talk about, like that fear of a black planet as Public Enemy. You used to listen to Public Enemy?
Yeah.
Fear of a black planet.
Jerry looked like he used to listen to Public Enemy. I feel that.
Of course.
Like, so the whole thought behind that term, and it was actually a script first. But the fear of a black planet is that misconception that
I'm gonna do to you what you did to me,
or
vice versa.
Yeah, you know that the chickens are coming home to roost. You know, but honestly, it's like that shouldn't even be the fear. It should be about if they feel like they have an equal shot at life, equal opportunity. Like they're gonna work. They really will. Yeah. Like some of my education. One more thing. One of my educational friends actually says about how no, like, kids aren't and families aren't asking for anything to be given, you know, to them. Like, you don't have to give it to me. Like I just need you not to step on me when I'm going for it.
Absolutely.
I was just going to add that change is hard, right? So let's talk about how, and may sound bad to some people, but let's talk about how August 12th has helped us, right?
Absolutely.
Because it has revealed these power structures that are in place that are detrimental to certain groups in our society. It's revealed, it's allowed us the place to be able to talk about and be heard in terms of the disenfranchisements of certain groups of people. And so I'd like to think that by kind of ripping the Band-Aid off or ripping the veil down, right, it allows us to be able to have these type of conversations, talk about these real problems, and hopefully
without it,
make things better.
Would the mayor of Charlottesville be African-American female?
No.
Without it, would we be sitting here having this conversation?
Would we have back-to-back African-American police chiefs?
No.
Right.
And I mean, so like Charles said, not to get too biblical or anything, certain things need to take place. Like, nobody likes being under construction. Everybody hates those orange cones and the dirt and the dust. Everybody likes that 4-lane highway and smooth sailing. So nobody likes to be under construction. Everybody likes the finished product. So if Charlottesville is going to change, August 12th almost needed to happen so that we can say, okay, my neighbor down there does not like me. Don't let my kids go down there. So we used to have that back in the day. You knew who was crazy. You knew where not to send your kids, you know. But nowadays, people can hide behind a computer. People can hide behind their cell phone. People can hide behind a smile, you know, like when, and this is one of the conversations that African Americans have had, like a lot of the Klansmen hoods went to police officers. So then we have conversations with our children that you might not have with yours. Like, I had to sit down and have, like, after Trayvon Martin, and tell my 14-year-old son, look, I want you home at night. This is what you need to do. I know it might be wrong, and I know I tell you to speak up for yourself, and everything sounds contradictory, but I want you home. So, yes, sir, no, sir. When you take your school picture, take it with a collared shirt. So when they look at your ID, it's not the norm for African-American child to have on a collared shirt and a tie. Whose child is this? That might buy you a couple extra seconds of them wondering instead of just putting your hands behind your back, slamming you on the car. And then even if they got footage of, that means nothing. Cameras, it means nothing. They still go off with pay. You know, so
let's throw. Man, you guys are, your show is banging. I just feel like I'm lucky sitting shotgun here, and you guys are driving the vehicle. I've never done this before. What does tomorrow look like for you guys? Would you guys be interested in doing tomorrow's show too?
Oh, you mean like come back tomorrow?
We filled 7
what am I doing
minutes,
tomorrow?
like
I'm going to work.
Okay.
I thought that was a philosophical question.
I was
Tomorrow,
thinking.
come on the show.
I was going to swim, ask for some breakfast.
What do you think?
We have so many topics coming on that we haven't got to. We got 70 minutes in.
Okay. I may be able to move some things around.
Okay. Do you think?
I believe so.
I'm going to just sleep here.
Okay, you can. Ahmad Hawkins says this. This has been a phenomenal show. Ahmad Hawkins, great friend of this program. He's done
Ball
2
Hawk.
rodeos, the Ball Hawk,
Yes, sir.
on the show.
That's my man.
He says this, and Charles, you're getting a lot of props. Trey Miner says, I see you, Charles.
Thank
Ahmad
you.
Hawkins says, stop. Let me get to your exact quote, Ahmad, here. First, let me get Freddie Jackson in the mix. It's definitely going to change. Wrong can't right wrong. More dark doesn't remove the dark. It took many years to get here. Just think about where we are, how far we've come. The natural universe will take care of it all. Someone planted the seeds for us to be here, so we have to keep planting. Even if we're not around to sit under those trees, oh, yeah, it's happening, and no one can stop it.
Freddie's amazing
Freddie
guy.
is amazing. Love No Ego Foundation. Ahmad says, stop searching for a leader and become a community of leaders.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Fortune
Absolutely.
Tom, when will we get more equity and stop trying to fight for equality in CVille and in this country? A lot of Fitzgerald Barnes, my friend, is watching the program right now. Love you, Fitz. Give it a like, give it a share. So many topics that I think we have to cover. We have to cover Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. Yes.
We got to cover. We have to cover the evolution, and we've touched on this a little bit, of Charlottesville since 8/12, but where we still need to go, and how maybe we've gone some places forward, but not necessarily where we have to go. We're not there yet. We have to cover Vinegar Hill. So many folks are putting on the feed. We have to talk Vinegar Hill with the panel here.
Okay.
I mean, when you take away
Hey,
someone's
thank
home,
Yeah.
you take away generational wealth, the ability to pass something along to someone's child,
That's right. That's right.
and that's effed up.
Yeah. Now, can I touch on that? We have time?
Absolutely.
How deep we going, Charles?
Yeah.
Hey,
This is a hot topic.
They're ramped up.
Yeah.
They're ramped up.
And see, that ties into, I think, was that Paul Bauer or was that someone from Tom Tom you said?
That
Tom Tom was the one, the barber.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I think they asked a question about equity versus equality.
That was Tom Tom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the thing the thing about that is that fair and equal aren't the same things.
Nope.
And people really need to remember that. So
Talk to me about that.
yeah. So for instance, like the idea of reparations come up, and a lot of people
40 acres and a mule.
right, and that's even been talked about in the city. So when you talk about Vinegar Hill, so all that stuff ties in, and reparations. It isn't always just about money, just me, writing you a check. Because the thing to remember is that, like let's say that you and I are the same age. If we're born and if And if you are coming from a lineage that was denied, like until 30 years ago, was literally denied like jobs.
Preach.
Or the chance to get mortgages.
Education.
Yeah.
All that.
Absolutely.
Right.
So then you can't then say that you and I deserve the exact same thing, like the exact same footing, because that's not fair. Like that's equal. That would make us, that would make it equal if we get equal part, but that's not the fairness. And so like the heart of man like has to be able to look at that and see that is the black plight. That's the black plight. It's not about like trying to take anything from anybody. It's about being an equal citizen.
And that's why we should use people of color.
Yeah.
Just that's my brother. So I'm over here going off like trying to tie on to what he's saying. That's why we shouldn't use people of color, because then if somebody says the powers that be say, okay, well here go $10, give it to people of color. Okay, how many people of color are in there? We even have and this isn't talking about anybody, we even have the LGBTQ community trying to tie on like they have the same issues as African Americans took through lynching and disparities, which does not make sense to me. It's not that you don't get attacked, and it's not that people don't view you, but the two are not the same. So when you start taking and you start classifying and grouping and putting everybody into one category, it loses its effectiveness.
You're getting a lot of props for this right now.
Okay.
They're pumping the feed here.
It's the same thing with women's rights as well. Like there's a lot of things that, that folks like Angela Davis started years ago, and then that somehow also got blended in.
Absolutely.
Like to every other cause.
What do you think, Max?
I think I've had the unfortunate opportunity to be able to meet a lot of people who suffer from a lot of these problems that both Razor and Charles are talking about.
And I think
I used to work for the Housing Authority.
Okay.
And again, I work locally now.
Okay.
And so I can't tell you how often somebody might come and sit down and say, I'm being evicted, I don't have a job, I have kids, I don't want to go to social services because, I might lose my kids, different things like that. And you just look at, first of all, just the sheer being naive to how to be able to function as an adult in life, right? But then you also look at the institutional things that have held these people back. And I think that the city is making momentum towards being able to give that equity that people need, right? But I still think that we certainly have a long ways to go. The Home to Hope program is definitely a good one. It's going to give some people a very good opportunity to be able to build better lives for themselves. But and these type of conversations that we're privy to may not be something that you're able to sit down and have, or Judah may be able to sit down and have, but they're out there, and it's way too many cases of them. And got to do something.
Like what Max said, with the disparities, the education part that Charles was alluding to, we give somebody some money, but they don't know how to invest that money or how to get a better education. They're going to go right back to the same situation. How to use it. And furthermore, and this is going to touch on some feelings, the school system. You can't take a kid from the inner city part of Charlottesville and give him a teacher from Idaho and expect that she knows how to deal with him when she may never have had children like him around her whole entire life. So then the first thing they want to do is stick African-American children on Ritalin. They want to stick them in a certain class. They want to classify your child without even telling you that they classified them. So now the disparity has already started. So now we got the prison to pipeline already getting started at the age of 2, 3 years old. You have doctors that they go to Ivy League schools, and this is no knock on UVA, but it's a test center. They figure out how to fix all types of stuff. I had a son myself who was diagnosed with Kawasaki's. Well, Kawasaki's is almost the same thing as hoof and mouth disease that's been around for many years, but you get money for certain things. So then you give medications and you do treatments for certain children, They can tell you when people come on talking about free shots, I'm not a component because I think that people are making you test subjects. Let's test this and this. I'm going to give you $25, so now you can't come back to me and sue me. because I gave you some money, and then we're going to figure out what this does to you. It's Henrietta Lack and Tuskegee Airmen all over again. It's just being hit a different, in my humble opinion, it's being done all over again. It's just being done a slicker way. So I got the fish hook inside the meat this time instead of just taking it and gaffing you with it.
Robert Gray, welcome to the show. Love you, Robert Gray. A lot of props on the feed. Guys, we are not going to be able to get to all these topics today. Can we do tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm good.
I think so.
I think so.
Doris
I'm
Mallory.
gonna send you my electric bill though.
Doris Mallory's giving you some props.
Right,
Randy Penny giving you some props. This show's been awesome. We are going to first thank you guys for coming today.
Yeah.
And I look
been
forward to mañana for tomorrow. We're going to take this entire show. We'll archive it on ilovecville.com by the end of the day today. We'll take the audio from the show and we'll turn it into an iTunes podcast so you can take this and stream it to your car or put your earbuds in and listen to the show. Nice. Go to In My Humble Opinion on Facebook and like it. Go to their YouTube page and watch it.
Listen to the show.
Listen to the show on Sunday.
12 to 3.
Yep, Sundays 12 to 3. And on all social media, it's IMHO Talk Show.
Listen to the show. The show's been banging. If we didn't get to your topic on the streams, we will try to get to them tomorrow. Once this show is over, I'm going to write a list of everything so we can try to get back to it. And I appreciate you guys interacting with the program.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is awesome. Yeah. We close the program the same way every time, and we ask everybody that's watching the show to think about the golden rule, and that's treating other people how you want to be treated yourself. I don't make it about religion. I make it about treating other people how you want to be treated yourself. It's a simple concept, but it's a concept we don't live as a population, as men and women, and we need to. I mean, Charlottesville needs it more than ever, the golden rule. The Commonwealth needs it more than ever, the golden rule. Our country needs it more than ever.
Amen.
The golden rule. Please, guys, please. I'm Jerry Miller. You're watching the I Love CVille show on the I Love CVille Network. In an hour and 12 minutes, we'll have our animal-focused show, What's Barking Local, powered by Animal Connection, where we're going to spotlight everything that's positive about our animal community in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Tomorrow at 3, our charity-focused show. Friday, our real estate show at 10:15 a.m. Thank you kindly for watching us. We'll see you tomorrow at 12:30.
What do you think?
Good. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It was the Gatorade that you gave.
Should I have, what kind of beverage of choice for tomorrow? Should I have a beer to pick up?
No, I'm good with this.